Shalom everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Pulse of Israel here in our eternal and ancestral, biblical and beautiful homeland, the land of Israel. This is the beautiful Judean hills, folks. The original Bible Belt. Let's get into today's episode. I haven't given you a war update in a while, so here is today's update. And it's really simple. Israel is doing a phenomenal job. Full stop. Do not listen to the news that everything is bashing Israel, criticizing Israel, blaming Israel. It is truly unbelievable what is going on when you see the full picture. So, while unfortunately the Biden administration is still stopping Israel from going into Rafah to destroy Hamas and free our remaining captives being held by Hamas in Gaza, we are still accomplishing unbelievable achievements. Again, despite the tremendous diplomatic pressure from the world, including from the Biden administration, which means our people are still suffering there in the terror tunnels because of that world pressure and Biden. So no, the war is not over yet, and it is far from over. But I want to help you see the full picture of how things are going with this war. A war that we didn't start, but a war that we must finish with total victory so that no Israeli is ever threatened again, like with what happened on October 7th. First of all, Israel successfully reconquered the Shifa hospital in Gaza that has been used as a terror base by Hamas. The IDF actually conquered that hospital months ago, killing terrorists there and exposing the vast terror network of Hamas terror tunnels underneath the hospital. But back then, the world criticized Israel for attacking this terror headquarters hospital, and we had to leave because that was one of the conditions of the deal that released the hostages at the time. However, Israel has always known that it cannot be considered a hospital. It is a Hamas terror headquarters, and we had to destroy it, which is what we did. But last week, the IDF finished a massive operation where we killed around 200 Hamas terrorists in that terror headquarters hospital and arrested 500 more, all in that hospital-based terror headquarters. And then we ended up destroying it. This time, Israel has the full support of the world in attacking this Hamas terror headquarters in a hospital. Even the White House no longer denies this truth and is supporting Israel for what it did in this quote-unquote hospital terror headquarters.
So look, Hamas should not be operating out of hospitals. We have said that. We've said that over and over again. And putting civilians at risk. That's what we're seeing. And we are concerned by how Hamas appears. They appear to have been able to reconstitute in a hospital so quickly. So we've always also made clear that we continue to support Israel's right to defend itself. We have urged Israel to take every step to avoid civilian casualties. And this just points to how challenging Israel's military operation is because Hamas has intentionally embedded themselves into civilian infrastructure, into these hospitals. But we've been very clear, we also have to call out Hamas here. They are operating out of hospitals. That's what they're doing. They're embedding themselves in civilian population. This is what they're doing. And so we have to be also very clear about that.
The insane thing is that Israel has known for years that Hamas uses its hospitals as terror tunnels. Just look at this IDF article that's been up there for years. From inpatient wards to the hospital basements. This is how Hamas turned Gaza hospitals into terror centers. For years, the Hamas terrorist organization has systematically placed terror infrastructure in sensitive civilian areas such as schools, kindergartens, and mosques. This military infrastructure includes terror tunnels, hideouts for terrorists, command and control centers used to direct attacks, rocket and anti-tank missile launching posts, and weapons storage facilities. The terror infrastructure is placed in these areas in order to use the civilians of Gaza as human shields and protective vests for Hamas terrorists, in blatant violation of international law. So why didn't we take care of this years ago? Well, hospitals are Hamas's favorite and central sites in the Gaza Strip to use for terrorist activities. The use of hospitals for terror purposes is one of Hamas's core operating methods. For years, Hamas formed a system for the optimum exploitation of hospital areas for its terror purposes across the Gaza Strip. The terror infrastructure in the hospitals is meant to ensure optimal protection for Hamas terrorists during times of war by taking advantage of the IDF's commitment to the laws of armed conflict and avoidance of carrying out significant strikes on locations of this type. So that's the IDF article. Yet Israel has never done anything about it until today. We've known about it for years, but we never did anything about it. It took the horrific massacre on Simchat Torah of October 7th for Israel to finally have the guts to go into these terror hospitals and put an end to them being used as terror centers by Hamas. Now, on top of that, Israel just attacked and destroyed an Iranian military headquarters in the center of Damascus, killing some very high-ranking Iranian generals, including an extremely high-ranking one, and several other Iranian officers. That is huge, a huge message to Iran. And on the diplomatic front, Israel finally outlawed the Al Jazeera television media network in Israel. There's something very important about the hospital item and the Al Jazeera item. For years, the Israeli government, including Prime Minister Netanyahu, were afraid of the international ramifications of going into Gaza terror hospitals and also of shutting down Al Jazeera. Finally, we are doing it. It should have been done years ago, but we didn't have the guts. Finally, we have the guts. Once again, it is scary to internalize that it took the massacre of October 7th in order for us to do basic things that are all about protecting the lives of Israeli citizens. And we lost the lives of all those citizens on October 7th because we didn't do this years ago. And you know how I always inform you about the powerful deep state in Israel that always stops Netanyahu governments from passing the laws and implementing the policies that are necessary in order to protect ourselves, always running to the Israeli Supreme Court and the Attorney Generals to annul those policies and laws. But right now, I want to focus on the positive change we are witnessing because we're doing these things and the justice system in Israel's deep state is quiet and not stopping us. Israel is finally doing things that we need to do to protect ourselves, even though they are many, many years late. And this reflects the change in the Israeli public, now giving the public support necessary for Netanyahu and his governments to do what is necessary. This is huge and an unbelievable good sign of moving forward. So guys, do not get depressed by all the fake news bashing Israel right now for doing what we need to do against our enemies everywhere in the Middle East, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, etc. And don't also internalize the civilians killed in a war zone that they're blaming us for. Hamas is responsible for every unfortunate death in Gaza, not Israel, and don't forget that. If the world really cared about the lives of people in Gaza or the civilians who are helping, well, world governments, including the Biden administration, would be pressuring Iran, Qatar, and Hamas to surrender and release our captives. Then the war would be over, and no lives would be lost. But the world is not putting any pressure at all on Iran, Qatar, or Hamas. So the war continues, and all deaths are on the heads of Iran, Qatar, and Hamas, not on Israel. Stick with me for the truth, folks. If you are not yet a subscriber to my Pulse of Israel videos, visit pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe, because it's with me you get the inspiring, politically incorrect truth that is not given anywhere else. And if you want to support our work so more people can see our videos with the inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world, just go to pulseofisrael.com and click on the donate button every once in a while. And in the meantime, shalom, everyone. From the beautiful, ancestral, biblical homeland of the Jewish people, the original Bible Belt. Am Yisrael Chai. We are winning, and we will win. Stick with me at the Pulse of Israel.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.